doesn't matter. Whatever that thing is, like, just take action and do it. Like, what are you waiting on? Literally.
Yep. I think a lot of times it's fear. I think a lot of times that people, they want to do something. And I think it's funny because people won't even realize that it is fear. Like, they won't realize they're afraid of something. Or they won't realize that they're being held back by
themselves.
A gremlin inside their head, you know, that's causing them to do that. So, address those fears and think about them. So there's really 5 big ones, and maybe you can write these down or see which one applies to you. I know which ones apply to me and which ones I really had to tackle and like be honest with myself about. So there's kind of 5 fears that keep us from taking the next step, like right now. They're the ones that make us say, I'm going to do it tomorrow. They're the ones that make us say, I'm not ready yet to go down this road.
All right, so what are those fears that we need to look at? He said there were 5 of them. Maybe that prohibit, whether that's success or whatever, moving forward, taking those actionable items. What are those?
Yeah, I think they're the things.
About those 5.
They're the things that make you second guess what you're going to do today when you get out of bed.
Right.
I mean, let's face it. A lot of this stuff, it happens. Our little thoughts happen before we even leave the bed in the morning. Like, well, I was going to do this, but I'd rather sleep.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times it just happens. And we don't even think about it, and then the next thing you know, weeks and months go by.
Right.
And the thing is, the longer you take to do something that you intended to do, the less likely you are to succeed at that. I mean,
so part of this also, before we get into the 5, this goes along with, you have to do things with intention. This is something we learned. We went to a thing the other day, a book Dylan's reading, but you have to do things with intention. So if you have the intent to do something, you should be doing that. And what you're saying is it dwindles down as you don't do those things you're intended to do.
Now, now, not later. I read this the other day in a book that later is one of the most insidious words to success, to motivation, to completing anything.
Right.
You know, like, don't use the word later. There's no reason to use the word later. Just do it now.
And that's something I actually share with my team too. So people are like, I've done everything I can. And I tell them, find one more thing. Like, do something else.
And do it right now.
Yeah.
And do it right now. So what are the things that would keep us from getting up from this video right now? When we stop the video, what are the things that would keep us from doing the next thing? And how can we conquer them and go? So probably the number 1 thing is fear of failure. Right? I mean, you're going to start this business. You're going to do this next step to take your business to the next level. You're going to whatever it is, you're afraid you're going to fail. But the bottom line is, what does Amber Voigt always say, talking about failing forward? You know, that's the thing. Like, a failure.
You're going to mess up.
Yeah.
All of us do.
Just get that expectation out of your head that you're not going to fail.
Right.
Because you are. Nobody does everything right the first time. No one.
Right.
No one does everything right the first time. And
if you do, you probably took too long to plan and you missed opportunities along the way.
And I have always felt like this. You know, when I was designing motorbike parts a long time ago, when we blew up a motor, failure was an experiment. So the minute you fail at something, write it down. Understand why it happened. Because then what you wrote down is no longer a failure. It's called research at that point. Like, that's the thing that makes you not fail the next time.
Right.
Use it as a tool. Don't be afraid of failing at all. Just use it as a learning tool. Use it as a tool. And, you know, we'll find that we will fail less, really, at that point.
So the next thing the next fear that you may want to overcome is, we get comfortable and that brings us a sense of security. And when we're going to do something different or move on to the next goal or whatever that is, fill in the blank, then it becomes an unknown. And we don't like to leave. It's the same thing we talk about comfort zones. Like you have to kind of step out, you have to try it. So you have to leave that sense of security and move into the unknown to even propel yourself forward. But that's a fear that holds people back because they like to be comfortable and secure.
Yep. So the fear of trading the security that you have now for an unknown. Do you have that fear? Write that down. Do you have that fear? And that's something only you'll be able to answer for yourself. But the thing I would say to that is, if you don't do this, what unknown is that? I mean, like, if I don't do what I'm about to do,
right,
all the possibilities that could open up for me, and the way it could change my life and the way it could change other people's lives, that's a bigger unknown to be afraid of than the one you might be thinking of right now. I mean, that's a huge deal. The other thing too, and this is a little bit more practical, and you might have to write this down and do a little thinking about it, is the fear of being overextended financially. That when you're working on your business and you're making an investment of your time or your financial resources or whatever it is, you may feel that you are overextended, and it's a scary feeling. And that risk taking is a type of person, and it's a thing that you have to learn. Maybe I don't, but that that I'm not that one wasn't on my list. I can take risks, but a lot of people can't, and so or they've never done it. I'm not going to say they can't.
Yeah, we talked about that even when we talked about like our employee versus entrepreneur type mindset. This is one of those shifts as well. If you're used to being able to go to work and you just collect a paycheck, then shifting to a business mindset where the risk becomes yours versus whoever your boss or owner or CEO is, you're putting that on yourself, and that is an unknown, and that could be a big hindrance for people. And
so the other thing, what I would say with that is the only way to really, a lot of people say, well, I want to put the risk in perspective before I do it. But I would challenge you to put the risk of not doing it in perspective. So same exact thing we just talked about in the last point, is write down, make a list of the possibilities. You understand what your vision for your business is, then figure out where it's going to take you. Think about where it's going to take you. Think about what it's going to do for your family. Think about what it's going to do for all the people that you touch with your business, whether that be your team members, the people that work with you, your employees, your clients, whoever that is. Think about how far-reaching of an effect that taking this risk can have on those people, and think about the risk of not doing that. About the ripple effect. If you do not do this, how many hundreds or thousands or maybe millions of people eventually would you affect by not taking this step? Think about it a little bit backwards, and think about the benefit of taking
this. This is actually something we share with our kids a lot. People say what if all the time. And what if is always in a negative connotation. Like, what if this happens, or what if this happens? But what if something amazing? Like, what if it's amazing? So
what if it's amazing, and what if I don't?
Right. Like, what are you risking if you don't try something? So that is a huge one, and we do talk to our kids a lot about that.
We talk about that around here all the time.
Outside of context of business, even like life decisions and exciting things, like you choose fear or excitement in every decision. So choose excitement. Your body doesn't know the difference. So and this is perfect, actually, I guess, as we're talking about fears. So the next fear to me is also a big one. Because we tend to fear what people will say or think about what we're doing. Like,
they might think you're crazy.
Yeah, and that's okay. Maybe you are crazy. Just embrace it.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is, and we won't spend a lot of time talking about this right now, but you'll hear us talk about it in other videos too. that society's sense of normal is something that I don't want to be.
Right.
I'm happy to be crazy. I'm happy to be different, and I'm happy to be a little off, and willing to take these risks and do these things a little bit differently because it's more fulfilling than sitting in a cubicle.
And also know that people will do and say things, right? So that is a legit fear, and it's gonna happen. But know that the things that they're doing or saying are a result of their own fears. It's almost like, I can't do that, so you can't do that either. So just keep that in mind as well. It's a fear for them, even that you're doing it. So it's not even, most of the time there's no reason or cause for it. It's just an unknown to them as well, and it comes across you. It attacks you in a way, but truly it's a fear on them.
And many times it's out of they care about you.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're worried about you, but it's, again, like she said, it's out of their fears. Think about it this way: if you were to give them this list of 5 things that we're talking about right now, chances are they may not even have an answer for some of them, or they may have completely different answers and very limiting beliefs about these 5 things that we're talking about right now together. So it's just different fears than what you have. And just identify that and know that, and remember that you can still do this stuff no matter what other people think of it. It's you're still going to have the results if you get past that.
And ultimately, are those people you're concerned about 5-10 years down the road, like, does what they say right now matter? Like, and if I try to think about the big picture. Like, do I truly care what X person thinks? Like, I care what Dylan thinks because we're supposed to be on a path together. But ultimately, in the big scheme of things, what my neighbor thinks about what we do when we're recording videos in the front yard, like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to remember it 10 years from now. They're probably not either. And so does it matter what they think? So definitely try to take a step back sometimes and think about that as well. Yep.
And the last thing on our list of our 5 things that keep us from doing, our 5 fears that keep us from doing, is our our fear that our success will alienate us from our peers, from our friends. It's an interesting one. I don't have this fear, but I've talked to a lot of people that do. They're like, well, I don't want to live differently.
Right. And it's coupled with the last one too, right? Because you're still worried about how that affects relationships around you.
And I guess I can't say that I don't have this fear. I don't really care about it. But I do see the outworking of it in the respect that we lead a completely different life than our peers. And so when they are off doing something, we're in here shooting videos.
Right.
And when they are working at their cubicle job, we're out doing something else. It's so it does touch us, this difference between us and our peers. But again, this kind of goes back to the same thing. It's a benefits versus, the benefits outweigh the anything.
Right.
And
it also puts it in perspective for you. Again, if you look at a bigger picture, you're supposed to surround yourself with 5 people who are better than you. So, are you surrounding yourself with people with similar goals and, that are going to propel you to where you want to be? These fears shouldn't hold you back. Obviously, if you're even this far into this, you have a goal, you have a dream, you have something, a business that you want to go. So we're telling you this because these fears shouldn't hold you back from taking whatever action today is the point. So.
Yep. So think about those things. The fear of failure. Write these down again. The fear of failure, the fear of trading the security that you have now for the unknown of whatever you're about to do. The fear of overextending yourself, either your time or your finances. The fear of what other people say or think of you, and the fear that you will be alienated from your peers or your friends by your success. Write those 5 things down and really analyze them to yourself. Really just kind of go inward and think about them, and see which one of those, if any of them, is limiting you from doing the thing that you need to do today. Not tomorrow, today. At the end of this video, hopefully you've already written them down right now. And do this now. Just do it now. And then whatever that thing on your whiteboard is, or on your refrigerator, or wherever you wrote it down, the next thing you need to do it now. Just do it right.
That's your
now.
action item.
Do it
Do
right
it now.
My name is Dylan.
I'm Leslie.
And this has been musicandmascara.com, and we will talk to you soon.